Bring that.
Touchdown! San Francisco!
McCaffrey's gonna score.
He gets picked off by Hufanga. Fred Warner with the INT. George Kittle.
That's a sackaroonie, baby.
Ball is out. It is picked up. Run back the other way.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Gold Rush. I am your host, Javen Takar, and what a game did we just all witness. Of course, we're talking about the 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You read the title, you saw the thumbnail, you know what you were talking about today. And it was just one of those games that come down to the wire that looked like the Niners are about to choke it away. Of course, luckily they did not, and Jake Moody came clutch. So let's sit down, let's relax, let's unwind what we all witnessed, because it was a close one. It was a close one. We were pretty much, maybe a couple yards away from having this go into overtime. We were a couple plays away from blowing this game. So we're going to touch on all levels, the offense, the defense, and especially the special teams. So let's dive right into the offense, of course. Let's talk about the quarterback, Brock Purdy. He went on ahead. He dropped 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. He went 25 for 36, and he definitely started off a little slow. I thought it was going to be a really tough game for him. He had a couple of passes that were really high and over their target, and so I kind of thought it was a little disappointing, but then he did make some big throws. He used his legs a lot. He had 17 yards on the ground, and they were in pretty crucial situations as well, so I think that was pretty big. It seemed like Shanahan kind of took the reins off a little bit, or took the leash off a little bit for Brock Purdy and let him do what he does and improvise and find time. That's actually how he found George Kittle on one of those touchdowns that he threw. He was in the red zone. He takes a snap, he's looking, he makes some time, chucks it right to where only George Kittle can go out and grab it. Speaking of touchdowns, Ricky Pearsall came in big this game. He had 4 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. It was a long touchdown. I want to say it was like 40-something yards. Big play for the rookie. Of course, everything that happened in the offseason with him. It was great to see him get in the end zone for his first time, hopefully first of many. But Juwan Jennings was the leading receiver this game with 7 receptions and 93 yards. Of course, he was third in Juwan. He was the reliable guy that Purdy was always looking at. He came up big. He made those big catches. Christian McCaffrey with was the third leading receiver with 6 catches for 68 yards. Deebo Samuel 5 catches, 62 yards, and then George Kittle 3 catches, 57 yards, and the touchdown there. So you see Brock Purdy spreading that ball around. We saw a lot of guys get involved. A lot of guys have their big moments, have their big plays. Let's touch on Christian McCaffrey for a little bit here, though. So obviously, as I just mentioned, 68 yards. He had 13 carries for 39 yards. He was the leading rusher by a lot. Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerendo only got 1 carry each, and Guerendo didn't even get a yard. Jordan Mason, he picked up 5 yards, which is a trend that I kind of hope we don't see. I guess it was one of those games where, Kyle wanted McCaffrey in there because of the fear of losing. But I think that Mason and Guerendo prove that they are reliable enough that you can hand that ball off to them and they'll pick up their yards. They'll do their due diligence. Of course, it was great having McCaffrey back, and the energy of him just being there was definitely felt throughout the whole team. But I would like to see the workload a little lessen, especially his first game back. His Achilles tendonitis in both legs. That is a tough injury to come back from. So I want to see Mason get more carries. I want to see Guerendo get more carries. I think it's only going to be better for the run game, having those fresh legs rotating each and every drive, rather than just carrying on McCaffrey. But hey, I'm not complaining, of course. I'm not complaining. McCaffrey was a great safety valve for Brock Purdy to dish it down to. Of course, as I mentioned, he had his 6 catches. We saw McCaffrey get involved a lot this game, and it's great to have him back. Oh boy, is it great. Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers sent a lot of pressure at Brock Purdy, which he is usually pretty good at dealing with, but you could definitely see he was a little uncomfortable. That was probably partial reason why some of his balls are so high, because he was under pressure. That pocket was collapsing. The offensive line did not have their greatest game in the world, and Brock Purdy hit the ground. He was sacked 3 times, so not the greatest performance, but I think mostly it was all right. Not too much to complain about. It wasn't like Colton McKivitz was getting completely killed off the edge. When they did send a 4-man pressure, it did seem like Brock Purdy had a lot of time to make a play. So I'm not going to buff on the O-line too much here. But the offense, the red zone struggles were still there. There was only, 1 red zone touchdown because Ricky Pearsall was out of the red zone. that red zone touchdown came from Brock Purdy improvising a little bit, throwing it to the corner for George Kittle to reach out and get. So the red zone offense still needs to improve. Even with McCaffrey, it seemed like the play calling was iffy, or Brock Purdy was messing. It just seemed like in the red zone, this team just tightens up. Defensively, Devondre Campbell had maybe his best game as a Niner. He was actually flying around the field, and he was reading the screens, he was stuffing the runs, and he did have some missed tackles, some angles where it was like, oh brother, this guy's not going to get there, and he didn't. But, he had, 7 tackles today? Fred Warner led the team with 9. And Fred Warner, he had a really bad flag. In the Buccaneers' final drive, they're marching down to tie up the game, but potentially take a lead. And the 49ers' defense was really crumbling. It was flag after flag after flag. Gave them, it felt like 50 yards. It felt like they moved downfield purely off of flags. There was a face mask on Fred Warner. He was coming in on a blitz, got his hand up in Rachaad White's grill, and then there was a face mask. I believe it was on Leonard Floyd. No, sorry, it could have been. They didn't call that, though. They called it on Malik Collins, who got in the backfield, got on Baker Mayfield, but he hit him kind of high, and they called it illegal high contact or something like that. It was a flag I never heard of. And then it was a face mask on Evan Anderson, the rookie. And again, it was kind of that same situation where he was going for a push-pull or he was just bull rushing and his fingers got stuck in that face mask. And, the refs are going to call that every time. So that was an absolutely killer of a drive. But luckily the defense, they bend but don't break. So the Buccaneers, they held them to a game-tying field goal, and to which it was the 49ers football to march down the field for a game-winning field goal potentially, which was definitely very scary considering the special teams, which we'll touch on in just a moment here. I do want to talk about some of the sacks that the 49ers got. Nick Bosa had a very tough game. You were thinking, after his boy MAGA Trump won, you were thinking, okay, we're going to get MAGA Nick Bosa coming out here. 3 sacks. I said I wanted 3 sacks. And he did not deliver. He had 4 tackles today. He did get in the end zone, or he did get in the backfield and sacked Baker Mayfield once. But then he also had some very poor plays. There was one that I'm especially thinking of. It was a crucial, I believe it was a 3rd down. The Buccaneers take the handoff. They hand it off to, I want to say it was Bucky Irving, who was absolutely killing this defense. Bucky Irving takes it, and Bosa does his job, closing the gap, and he is right there, and he just completely whiffs on the tackle. That was a very ugly play. It's kind of notorious. Bosa really isn't the greatest in the run game. We've seen other teams exploit him because whether it's a missed tackle or he's just super uber aggressive in getting the pass rush. But I've never seen anything like this before where the running back literally just ran right through Bosa. And Bosa stood no chance there. So not the greatest game for Bosa, but maybe we just had too high expectations for him. Let's be real. And then Malik Collins also got in on one. We saw a lot of Sam Okuanu in this game, playing defensive tackle, playing inside with Bosa and Leonard Floyd coming off of the edges, which I think is great. I think that Sam has done a really good job for the time that he's been in. And he didn't look like a negative out there. So all in all, the D-line, I would have liked some more sacks, but there was also some plays where they were getting pushed around, and it was leaving some big lanes for Bucky Irving to take. So, the D-line definitely has to improve still, but it is what it is. The secondary really did a great job. Renardo Green having to step up for cornerback 1 because Charvarius Ward, of course, he lost his 1-year-old daughter this past week, so he is taking the week off, and he's going to take as much time as he needs. Renardo Green looked really good out there. Deommodore Lenoir, of course, looked really good. Isaac Yiadom even didn't look too negative out there. And we saw Rocky Sin get in there as well a little bit, which I'm kind of curious as to why. I'm not sure if there was an injury or something, but we did see Rocky Sin get in the mix. And now let's touch on the special teams, because I think that this is a very bad special team. It's maybe the worst in the entire NFL. Jake Moody, 3 for 6 on field goals. He missed 3, I want to say it was 3 straight. 3 straight, he missed a 44, I believe it was a 45, and then a 50. Very makeable. Very, very makeable. And, I mean, like I said, this special teams unit really left a lot of points on the scoreboard there. I mean, that is 9 points that would have been crucial with how close this game was. He did come back out, and he hit a 44-yarder, a game winner, which was huge. I really think that a lot of our fans, a lot of the fan base out there, probably thought he wasn't going to make it, probably expecting overtime. Me included. There was a lot of times where, it was 4th and 7 or 4th and so, and I just said go for it. I think you have a better chance at the offense picking up the first down than Jake Moody had at making the field goal. And I would not be surprised if we see Jake Moody. Yes, he's coming off of an injury. Yes, this is also his first game back along with McCaffrey. But there's just absolutely no excuse, man. I mean, those 40, inside the 50 especially, those should be automatic for the type of kicker you are, for a third-round kicker. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if this was Jake Moody's last game as a 49er. But, Shanahan, he loves sticking to his guns. He just hit a game-winning field goal. He's coming off of an injury. It's his first game back. He's a little rusty. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those excuses there. We also had a fumble, a muffed punt by Jacob Cowing. It was a great play by the Tampa Bay special teams. They pushed, I want to say it was Darrell Luter. They pushed Darrell Luter pretty much into Jacob Cowing, and Cowing just didn't catch the football. It wasn't a flag, and it was a clean play, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers jumped on that one. So that was a very, very tough call there, but then Cowing kind of made up for it. He had a pretty long punt return, which I thought he was going to take it to the house, but he didn't, of course. So those missed kicks and the muffed punt, those really hurt, and just this special teams unit it really needs to be reformed. So it'll be interesting to see what the Niners do to address the special teams unit, because it's a little different. You kind of like having a kicker just for the whole season, but that just wasn't the case. It's not the case here with Jake Moody. It's kind of a constant theme of him having his on and off games, but when he's off, he's really off. And today was wide left. Overall, not a clean game at all. I was expecting a little bit more coming out of the bye week, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a tough and aggressive team, and they're fired up, especially after getting that loss to Kansas City. So they definitely were playing with a little chip on their shoulder. Definitely a lot of things that this team has to clean up, pretty much from head to toe, from offense to defense to special teams. This team has to get it together. Going on to the Seattle Seahawks in Levi's, coming back home. The Seattle Seahawks coming off of a bye week, so they're going to be fresh and rested. They're going to be hungry. They're going to want to spoil this Niners team, because that game is going to be important for division seeding, because, hey, we need us to get into the playoffs. We got to win this division, fellas. At the end of the day, at least the Niners got the dub. Jake Moody, game-winning field goal. Who would have thought? I think after seeing all those misses, nobody was hoping it was going to come down to it, but it did. It was definitely good to see getting everybody involved. I love seeing Debo have his moments, Jennings get his moments, Kittle get his moments, and now Pearsall as well. McCaffrey, who we love having back, of course. I want to see him get a little less of a load, however. But I understand it was a close game. You want your biggest guy, your biggest threat in. So, okay, that's cool and all. But yeah, would love to see a committee with McCaffrey, with Mason and Correndo. Overall, 49er faithful enjoyed this win. Got another one coming up next week. That's going to be a big game as well. And if you are interested, go ahead and take a look down in the description below. I've got all my other social medias, my TikToks, my Twitters, my Instagrams. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I always love interacting with y'all. And hey, subscribe while you're there so I know you like all this stuff. I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. Peace out.